Welcome to this exam-focused explainer on Chapter 14. We're going to break down environmental sustainability for your Grade 12 economics exam. We are basically taking complex macroeconomic theory and turning it into crystal clear, structured knowledge so you can absolutely ace that final paper. So, here's the ultimate question we've got to tackle. How on earth do we balance massive economic growth with saving the planet? And critically for you, how do you score maximum marks writing about it? Because in economics, the environment isn't just about trees and polar bears. It is a fundamental economic problem about resource allocation and market failure.
Here's our blueprint for today. 1. Foundations. 2. The economics of the problem. 3. Interventions. And 4. Exam mastery. Let's get right into it. Starting off with Section 1, Foundations, we're looking at core concepts and the current state of our environment.
The absolute crucial starting point is understanding environmental sustainability itself. You literally must be able to write down this exact definition to get your full marks. It's the ability of the environment to survive its use for economic activity. Essentially, meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs. Keep this core principle locked in, along with related concepts like your carbon footprint, biodiversity, and the green economy, because they all spring directly from this one foundational idea. Now here's a classic exam trap you really need to navigate: the massive contrast between conservation and preservation. Conservation is all about the sustainable use and management of resources. It's about creative continuity, right? So we can keep using things like timber and fishing stocks over time. Preservation, on the flip side, means keeping something completely intact and untouched. Think of ecological systems, indigenous forests, or heritage sites like Robben Island. You don't manage them for extraction. You preserve them entirely.
Right now, the state of our environment is buckling under massive pressure from 4 major types of pollution. And pollution basically happens when human emissions exceed nature's capacity to absorb them. In the South African context, we are facing some highly critical challenges. We've got massive air pollution from our coal dependence and greenhouse gases, severe water scarcity, which is compounded by mining waste and industrial effluent, and sweeping land degradation from soil misuse.
Moving right along to Section 2, the economics of the problem, specifically looking at the causes and consequences. Okay, listen closely because this is purely economic theory in action. A fundamental economic cause here is negative externalities. In a free market that's driven entirely by self-interest, polluters are only looking at their private production costs. Because they aren't paying the social cost, the health impacts, the cleaning up of rivers, the general environmental degradation, there is absolutely zero incentive for them to stop polluting. As a result, goods that generate air and water pollution are systematically oversupplied in the free market. The market simply does not price in the damage. But it's not just externalities. The environment also takes a huge hit due to a lack of property rights. A lot of the environment, like the sea or the air, isn't privately owned, which means nobody really protects it. Throw in a critical lack of knowledge, widespread corporate and consumer carelessness, and the massive overarching strain of rapid population growth and urbanization, especially in developing countries where the demand for basic goods completely outstrips nature's capacity. You can actually map these specific causes directly to economic and social consequences. This is an absolute goldmine for your Section B data response questions. Say they give you a cartoon about factory smoke. You need to immediately state the economic costs, like reduced agricultural output or damage to infrastructure, and then link that to the social costs, like increased health issues and food insecurity for vulnerable communities. You've got to connect the action straight to the economic impact. Let's jump into Section 3, Interventions. What measures and South African policies are actually in play to fix this? When the government steps in, their interventions basically fall into 2 distinct camps, and you absolutely need to know the difference. First up, we have market-based instruments. This is using the actual market mechanism to price pollution. Think charging for environmental use, subsidies for clean tech, or marketable permits like cap-and-trade systems. Second, we have public sector control. This is your direct government regulation, command and control laws banning certain chemicals, strict emission standards, or running public education campaigns. A super testable market-based instrument is the green tax. By placing a tax on output that generates external costs, like South Africa's carbon tax or those levies on plastic bags and tires, the government essentially forces the polluter to finally pay up for those negative externalities. It artificially raises the price of the harmful good, which reduces demand and brings output down to a much more socially acceptable level. So what is South Africa actually doing about all this? Well, we're seeing some big initiatives, like a massive 25 billion rand fund from the Industrial Development Corporation to support investments in the green economy. We also have the REIPPP, the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Procurement Program, bringing crucial solar and wind energy online. Plus, we've committed to having 10% of our land area under protection. But look, you absolutely must acknowledge our challenges too. We have a massive dependence on coal for energy, and the financial cost of transitioning away from Eskom's traditional grid is frankly huge.
On a global scale, you've got to memorize this timeline of major international agreements. It kicks off with the 1992 Earth Summit in Rio, which really laid the groundwork for sustainable development. Then, the incredibly important 1997 Kyoto Protocol, where developed countries actually committed to legally binding reductions in greenhouse gases. Fast forward to the 2002 Johannesburg Summit, which focused heavily on sustainable development and African environmental issues, and then COP17 in Durban, which pushed hard for a green climate fund. Showing this timeline in your essay proves to the examiner that you truly grasp the broader global context.
Finally, Section 4, Exam Mastery. Let's talk structure and revision so you can actually go get those marks.
When you are tackling the Section C essay on this topic, stick rigidly to this 4-step structure to guarantee you hit every single rubric requirement. Your introduction has to clearly define environmental sustainability. Then, your main body should methodically explain the state of the environment, the causes, the consequences, and the measures to ensure sustainability, and pack it with South African examples. The additional part of the essay will usually ask you to evaluate these policies, and then you wrap the whole thing up with a really strong summarizing conclusion.
For Section A, just a quick tip. Examiners love testing conservation versus preservation, so have your keywords ready and do not mix them up. Also, if you're ever asked why the market fails the environment, your immediate answer should trigger 3 concepts: self-interest, lack of property rights, and unpriced negative externalities.
Grab a quick screenshot of this rapid-fire revision checklist right now. Before you even think about walking into that exam room, make sure you can speak to every single point listed here clearly and confidently. Honestly, just having one solid sentence per concept in your head is enough to ensure you've got the full breadth of the chapter covered.
I'm going to leave you with this high-level question to really chew on for your essay evaluation. Are South Africa's green taxes and renewable energy programs actually working? Or does our heavy reliance on coal and the intense pressures of poverty make true sustainability kind of an impossible dream right now? How would you motivate your response to an examiner? Good luck with your revision, keep analyzing, and go secure those distinctions.